Damn, man. I thought you valued these conversations.
Apparently not. They're just content to me. That's how it is.
It's saying bad video settings. Keyframe frequency to 4 frames or less. Let's see, what am I doing wrong here? I might need to turn the resolution down on my video. Let's see. We are live right now. I'm sure people always enjoy this part.
They're getting the behind the scenes, how we don't know what the fuck we're doing part.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Story of my life.
Hot stuff. That's why people come here, is to hear all of the text jargon that we don't know, and they can scream at us. Yeah, what was well, since we're on the subject, we'll start talking about weird movie experiences since we're live, and
not
just listen to this.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Go ahead.
I had one. It was during. Oh God! It was. I cannot remember. It was the one that just came out with. Well, it just came out. The Western with Christian Bale. But we're sitting there, and it's me and my wife, and literally we're like the only two there. And then all of a sudden, this like old folks home must have came. Like, and this was their, get them out of house strip. So they take them there, and they put everybody up front and all that. And all of a sudden, it's real quiet because the movie doesn't have like a huge score, and I hear this like water or like something wet just keep hitting the floor, and I'm like, what the fuck? And so I get up and I have to go piss, and I walk by and there's just vomit all over. Like one of those old people is just like puking. Like I feel bad because I'm like, hey, that sucks. We're all gonna get there sometime, so I'm not gonna be a dick about it because we'll get there eventually, But it was just like all over. And then once I smelled it, I didn't smell it because we were way back there, but once I smelled it, I could smell it the entire movie. Like I couldn't get it out of my, I don't know if it was in my head or more that since I just knew it was there.
Yeah. And like having something that heavy on your mind always is gonna like affect how well you're able to fucking enjoy the movie in the first place,
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of those things. I've also had a story where I took a kid's cell phone from him and told him he'd get it back after the movie. I put it in my pocket.
You straight up high school teachered him.
Yep, just took it. Just literally reach, because so he was in front of me and he was texting on our Facebook or some shit. So I leaned forward and I was like, "Hey man, can you put away your phone?" And he goes, just kind of looks back and goes, "Yeah." And a few minutes later comes out and I go, "Hey man, put away your phone." And so he then pulls it out again later, and I just reach over and grab his phone and take it. And he stands up like he was like 17 years old. I could tell he thought he was tough, and then he like stood up, and then I stood up, and I'm fucking a giant.
And he sat back down.
He sat back down real quick. I go, "You'll get your phone after the movie." So I think he didn't pay attention. I'm like, "No, dude, I'm a giant mountain of a man."
Hey, quick shout out to our friends in the chat right now. Gojira guy, what's up, buddy? Venice Beach Sports Network. I stopped by to say what's up over there. Caleb, I don't know if you've watched his channel before, but he does like sports commentary to baseball. It's pretty cool.
Okay, that's something I would definitely go check out, but I'm probably the most ignorant person to baseball of all time.
Yeah, I am too. I just felt like the desire to go over and see what's up. He's doing good shit over there. He's definitely got that commentator voice. So yeah, what's up? Glad to have you back. Amy Clark. What's up, Amy Clark? I don't know why on earth I would want to call you Amy Casey. Glad to see that you are in here in the chat. And Gajira guy again, it's good to hear from you. It has been a little while. Always good to hear from fellow kaiju lovers. And then also Kindle Fontenot says, looks and sounds great, and I can only assume he's talking about you, Caleb, so you should say thanks for that.
Is that what it is? With my redneck look today, I didn't do my hair today, so I look like a complete redneck. This is not my normal. I look like I could be on Duck Dynasty right now a little bit.
I was thinking UPS driver, like sexy UPS costume.
That's what it was. I was just actually filming my UPS porn right before this came up.
Amy says Caleb is savage.
It was called Average Size Pack. That was the name of my porn. That's what it was.
That's
my
good.
UPS porn.
It's good. And then Venice Beach Sports Network says he does live play-by-plays. So yeah, you guys head over and subscribe.
I definitely need to check that out. Yeah.
Little inside baseball, pun intended. It was it was the fact that I got a notification, almost like a text message, when Venice Beach went live, that I was like, oh shit, he is on YouTube right now. And I was like, man, going live is the only way to go, because what happened is the second we went live, these lovely folks that are subscribed to us got a notification and are like, oh, cool, I can go and check it out.
I've never done anything live except for with you, so I don't even know how that works. And literally, I can't even see what's going on. I don't even see you. I just see myself.
Yeah, that to be fair, guys, just so you know, Caleb does not have he's the heads-up display of the chat. So if he ignores you, it's not only because he thinks he's better than you. It's because he cannot read your tweet or your comment. Actually,
that's exactly what it is.
Kindle Fontenot says it's all about Caleb. So
yeah, see,
fuck you,
that's
Kindle.
what it is.
Appreciate that. Fine.
That's why I purposely turn off. I'm like, I only just want to see myself. That's the whole way I do this thing.
I don't blame you.
Well, I don't know if you got everything working properly and ready to jump into it.
I mean,
or if they're just enjoying our horrible banter.
No, dude, I'm pretty sure they are not enjoying our banter. Regardless, no, we're good to go. Let me see. I just had to make sure everything was up and streaming. It's still making me a little bit nervous because it says, please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which will cause buffering. So, guys in the chat, if it does get a little bit choppy, go ahead and let me know, and I will apologize, because that's probably about all I can do while we're streaming live. But yeah, I had this really, really heavily horror-themed podcast planned for tonight, which, you know, I hate to do horror-themed podcast because then there gets to be an expectation set, but I love to talk about horror. But then Caleb brought a more topical little piece of news to the conversation that we're going to discuss tonight. But before we get there, what have you been watching this week?
I have honestly not been watching a lot of anything, which I feel like is my MO as of late, because I've been spending most of my time, working on our other project, People Are Terrible. So,
yes.
For those who are unaware, is our other podcast where it's just topical, it's fun, it's random, it can be about politics or whatever. So I've been talking to a lot of people, trying to promote that, get that set up, and today I actually just watched our first episode because I had no idea how it came off, because I don't usually watch my own content, so I wanted to check that out. And I watched the season finale just now of The Bachelorette, which is amazing and horrible all at the same time. It's just awful garbage and fun.
Were you happy with the outcome?
Well, so I watched Bachelor in Paradise, yeah, and it's. I mean, they're all horrible people except for like one person on it, and of course, anyone who's a decent human being gets screwed on that show. But it was okay. It was fun. It's mainly something that is fun to watch with my wife because she gets so into it, and the shit that comes out of that woman's mouth when we're watching that, like. She gets so angry at these women. There was this one girl in the last episode or something. She starts having a panic attack for no reason, and she's like freaking out, and she's about to cry. And my wife is just over her at this point. It's like, get the bitch a paper bag and a Xanax. I can't deal with this.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, some people get invested in that.
That's all I've been doing.
So,
yeah, it's pretty fun.
Introspectively, what did you think, man, when you were watching the first episodes of our video, which, just so you guys know, I was having, it took a little bit of time to get them edited, so as opposed to doing the Monday and then the Wednesday, I dropped both the Monday and the Wednesday today. Hopefully it's going to get us on track a little bit, but when you were watching it, man, what were your thoughts?
I liked it. I mean, this is the type of content I consume. I watch a lot of YouTubers and podcasts that have to do with like politics and current affairs and just random topical stuff. And that's one of my, I don't watch a lot of movie podcasts. I watch a lot of movies, but not movie podcasts. So it was nice to watch something that's more in line of the stuff that I take in. You know, I hated my mic the whole time, these things. I don't know how they sound, but I have this weird thing where I have this deep mumbly voice, so nothing really sounds that great. It either sounds muffled or tinny. And so that was my only thing that bothered me. But overall, it was fun. It was something that I would actually watch, which is nice.
Did you feel like you articulated your points well and that you were able to get in at least the lion's share of what you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, of course, there were things I noticed where I was like, well, I could have articulated that a little bit better. It could have been a little more well thought out. But, I mean, that's kind of the point of the other show, is to always be honest, always be upfront, work through things kind of on the fly. And
yes.
I sure we'll get to a point. I guarantee you topics are going to come up that eventually that you and me heavily disagree on. It's bound to happen. And I think that's kind of how you grow as a person, is by talking to things and talking through your own ideas. And I think both of us are those type of people who are not the type who are so ideologues that we can't change our things or go, hey, maybe I'm being a hypocrite here, or maybe this. And I'm actually excited about it on a personal level and as a content level. I'm very excited about it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I was happy with it as well. On a technical level, there were a couple of little gripes that I have as far as sometimes I look dead-eyed. That was one of the things that I noticed, because when we're on split screen constantly, like you're sitting here having a really good conversation and I'm at the same time here typing away at the keyboard trying to get the next fucking graphic come up, and I don't want it to seem dismissive, and I'm curious what the audience actually thinks about that, or how you guys take that. Does it seem like you would rather see us on split screen where you can see both of us and our reactions the entire time, or would you rather do more conventional kind of cutting back and forth depending on who's talking at the time? That said, I can actually do both. We're just kind of trying to figure out the format. And I would also like to hear what you guys think about the idea of what Caleb and I are doing right now, which is doing 3 separate videos, one of my topics, one of his topics, and then one of a viewer-submitted question. Caleb had kind of liked the idea of us doing it all together and then me splitting it down afterwards. And upon further thought, I think that's a cool idea. Problem is, both of us are a bunch of fucking gabberjaws, so we might have to figure out how to be able to condense it down into a 30-minute digestible podcast. But I mean, what do you think about that, Caleb, now that you've had time to think about it?
Well, I am one of those people. I listen to 3-hour podcasts, so I'm probably on the other end. I like long form content personally. And then I'm one of those people. If we end up talking for 3 hours and each part we split up into an hour segment, that's fine. If one of them is 15 minutes, that's fine. I like long form stuff. I also am one of these people where I'll play a video game and I'll actually just put on a podcast on my phone and turn off the audio to a video game, beat the entire game while listening to podcasts. So I like long format, but I know I might be in the minority here.
So, Gajira guy wants to know what our opinion on Little People. Have you heard of it? If not, don't think about it. Little People, I guess, is what they call dwarfs. Is another name for dwarfs. Kind of sounds like Little Women. I don't know exactly what it is. Have I heard of it? No. If not, don't think about it. Too late. You put it in my mind, man. Caleb, what do you think about Little People?
Are we talking about, is this a movie or are we talking about actual Little People?
I have no idea, man. That's your choice how you answer this question.
I don't know of a movie, but I have opinions on everything. So on Little People, I mean, they're people. That's how I feel about them.
It's a very fair point. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Peter Dinklage is my like go-to example of. Not familiar with a lot more Little People, but Peter Dinklage is like one of the greatest fucking television actors of all time. So there's that.
Well, and then there's, God, I cannot think of his name, Warwick Davis, is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's an icon, in my opinion. But I'm sure, let's be honest, I'm sure there are a bunch of little people who are little assholes, too, because there's a bunch of big people who are assholes.
Little assholes. So yeah, okay. Amy says that... Go ahead.
If I had a friend who was a little person, I would want to cosplay as Master Blaster just once.
Oh,
That's
dude, 100%. So
one time.
Amy wants to says that she's looking to get into more podcasts. Which ones do we like to watch, or would we suggest?
Okay, I have it depends. I can do like video games if that's one. Easy Allies is phenomenal. Sacred Symbols is another phenomenal PlayStation only podcast. If you're looking for movies, not the guy to ask, but politics, I recommend trying to find broad voices. My number one go-to is Joe Rogan because he covers everything. If you're looking for, I think personally for me, Joe Rogan probably has the most well-rounded podcast on the internet. If you're looking for a conservative voice, I would say Ben Shapiro gives a pretty good daily podcast. Actually, I don't catch it daily. If you're looking for a more conservative voice, a more liberal voice, they don't seem to have as big podcasts because I think they more have the mainstream media on lock. So I haven't found one there that I identify as much with. Like for my liberal voice, I go to people like Don Lemon. I actually really like the stuff he puts out, but he's not doing a podcast. He's on CNN. And then for, God, I listen to so many podcasts. I listen to a ton of video games. And then IGN Game Scoop is a phenomenal podcast.
Okay, and I know me and you have listened to Kinda Funny at different times. Kinda Funny is a pretty good. There's Game Over Greggy and Kinda Funny in the Morning, which are both good. Movie-related stuff, I highly recommend checking out Screen Junkies News for actual staying up to date with movie news going on. But if you want more conversational, more intellectual, kind of deeper dives into psyche and current events, I definitely think What the Fuck with Mark Maron and the Joe Rogan Experience are two that I highly recommend if you're looking for more kind of fictionalized or true crime podcasts. I mean, there's so many different ones out there, but obviously you could start with something like Serial. There was like The Black Files, I think is another one, but ask 100 different people, you'll get a million different answers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it just depends on what you're into. But yeah, if you want to let us know down in the comments section what kind of podcast specifically, let us know. What's that, Caleb? Another
one that I got to shout out is Rubin Report, Dave Rubin show. Another political one. He's a great person. He pretty much just gets people on and interviews them and just lets them speak. I wish he had some more left-leaning views on it because he's a former liberal who now is more libertarian. And so he interviews a bunch of people. And he's a fascinating voice. I just wish sometimes he got... And he's tried. I mean, he's in his credit. He's always saying, I'm trying to get people on my show who lean a little more left. They refuse to come on. But I think his is an interesting show. Even if you watch it and go, I don't agree with the people he interviews, it's like I said, I love hearing other ideas. So I think that's another great one.
the Valley Folk is former members of SourceFed, and they have a real fun. It's like Steve Zaragoza and a couple of the old school people from SourceFed. But so yeah, there's a ton of them. Just we'll consider this conversation for maybe an episode of People Are Terrible, something that we could get into a little bit later. So yeah. Amy says, sweet, thanks, guys. No problem, Amy. That is what we're here. Well, actually, we're here to talk about movies, so I guess we should. Okay, let's see. I've been watching Get Shorty the past couple of weeks. It's a Epix show that is a very loose adaptation, reimagining of the 90s movies with John Travolta, maybe early 2000s movies. The show is impeccable. I thought the movie kind of sucked. I watched the JRE with Elon Musk, man. I know you at least saw the fallout from that.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about that on a People Are Terrible. That was one of my things. I was like, I want to talk about should drugs testing be allowed.
Oh, great.
So look out for that, because I will bring that.
Very cool. Yeah, and then very cool. Very cool. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Nun because we've got a headline coming up in regards to that. But yeah, I went and saw it. Opening night, I'll give the condensed version for any of you guys who may not know. I went on opening night, 7 p.m. over at the AMC on the other side of town, the one I don't normally go to. It's because it's a little bit older. They call it an AMC Classic because they didn't fucking upgrade anything. It's like it's an old, shitty theater, shitty seats, shitty screens, all that. And I was not happy because they wouldn't honor my AMC stubs because they didn't know how to cancel the reservation for the one that I had made at the same time at the other theater. I went in to watch it. It was a horrible experience. I ended up fucking reprimanding the audience, basically telling them all to, I was like, get off my lawn. And some kid in the back is like, okay, Dad. So I ended up being like, fuck this. I left the theater, went back the next day. It's like, man, I really got to see the Nun. This looks going to be good. And I went and saw it, and it is fucking terrible, dude. It is the definition of movies are terrible.
That's why I keep hearing, and I've never seen any of The Conjuring, but they're all like well loved, and apparently The Nun is not on that tier.
No, and that's the thing is that I have liked all of the Conjuring movies with the exception of the first Annabelle, and Conjuring 2 is not near as good as the first one, but they've at least all been all right. You know, Annabelle Creation was all right. It wasn't great, but man, this is easily the bottom of the barrel as far as it goes, and what's fucked up is like, maybe if it would have came out in the 1980s and I would have seen it then, it would have had a different impact. I could have imagined myself really liking it because there are about 10 different vignettes, little scare sequences, like set up this kind of surrealist scenario, and it plays out, and it's really well shot, really well designed, a lot of rich atmosphere, but the story is fucking stupid, and it's not scary at all.
So it's like Hereditary. Oh,
hot take. Andrea hates Hereditary as well, which is hilarious. She hit me up and she's like, "Have you seen Hereditary? Don't bother." And I was like, "Oh no, you don't understand. It's one of my favorite movies of the year." And
oh, that's amazing.
Now we're not friends anymore, which is fucked up. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it'd be better if it was a true story, and we know how horrible you are.
They make so much money, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and that's actually where we're going to get to here in just a minute. But yes, absolutely, this one was the biggest grossing of them. But let's back up a little bit. Caleb, right before we started getting everything together finally, what did you bring to my attention?
The Superman casting?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I am so disappointed. So apparently Henry Cavill is out, and he's out, and then rumor, and this is a rumor, is that Michael B. Jordan is in talks for the next Superman. I'm so curious to hear your take on this.
Well, I mean, what's crazy? I mean, the headline switched within the period of just a couple of hours, if even that. But apparently talks broke down for a cameo in Shazam due to scheduling conflicts, and the door is now closing on other potential appearances for the actor. So basically, there's a source that told Hollywood Reporter that he's said to be hanging up the red cape. However, that hasn't officially been confirmed by either Cavill or Warner Brothers, but with everything else that's been going on over there at Warner Brothers DC, it doesn't surprise me that things are still so volatile. Plus, we saw that Cavill just now got casted for a substantial role in The Witcher. So the man, he's got a lot going on. He does have a lot going on, and I got to take umbrage with you, bro, because I saw your post on Twitter a minute ago, and you said the same people that were shitting on Superman in The Man of Steel and didn't like his portrayal are now mad that they are. Well, don't let me speak for you. What was your tweet?
Essentially, it's like I just found it ironic that everyone who was like freaking out about Man of Steel and saying Cavill ruined Superman are now like, oh my God, he's gone. We lost such a wonderful Superman. I'm like, you guys hated him. Come on. Like, you know, and now you love him because he's a different Superman.
I understand that when you're painting with broad. I understand that when you're painting with broad strokes, but I am somebody who thought that Cavill did everything that he could, despite the fairly bleak storytelling of Man of Steel. The criticisms that people had about Henry Cavill seemed to be his lack of being very positive and inspiring, but that's kind of what he was confined to through the way that the story was told. And it's similar to Injustice. So, like, people have seen that kind of Superman before, but not general audiences. So I think they were taken back by this brooding, dark, cynical Superman whose parents didn't really just overly imbue him with people are great, you've got to do great for people for forever for the betterment of man, where you know, they actually seem much more parental in Man of Steel and acted the way caring parents would act. Mm-hmm. I liked all of that. I understand why people would have problems with Man of Steel. I understand why people would have a problem with the fact that Cavill was a kind of more dark and brooding character, but that spoke to my sensibilities about a Superman that I could actually root for in some ways. He was connected to a world that I understood, and easily my favorite Superman. Just all the way across the board, Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman.
For me too. I loved Henry Cavill. I loved Man of Steel. I thought, well, first of all, I thought it was obviously he was setting up an arc, and we were going to watch him grow into that Superman. And you can kind of tell that's where they were going through all of that, because he does become more that in the more American exceptionalism embodiment of hope arc. You do see that start to happen throughout the trilogy, even though the third one was cut all apart and re-put back together. But I just found it weird because I saw some people, legitimately some big outlets, and not even big outlets, like big people who, like, I've watched their content where they've just shit all over Henry Cavill, say he ruined the character. Now today being like, oh, it's so sad. They don't know what they're doing. They got rid of the greatest Superman. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought it was they didn't know what they were doing because they cast the worst Superman. You can't have it both ways.
I understand.
You know, like, for me, I'm devastated about it, you know, but
I think those people that you are speaking about absolutely exist 100%. I don't think that speaks to everybody's feelings about him. I mean, he was one of my favorite parts about the Justice League, if not my favorite part. Watching him fucking just wreck the entire Justice League was awesome. And then when he came back and had his final moment, you know, at the end of the movie, I really liked it. So yeah, I mean, Henry Cavill looks like the most perfect casting of Superman that you could possibly have.
Oh no, he definitely jumped off the comic book page. Like, it is exactly what Superman should look like, and I like his portrayal of him. I think he comes off as a genuine person in his portrayal. I think because he is a genuine person from all accounts that I've seen of him.
So, okay, all that's fine and good. What about Michael B. Jordan? Does he embody everything that you've ever thought Superman was?
So, if he's being cast as Kal-El, then I'm against it. But there is what's the black Superman's name? Like Zol-El or something like that?
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, so I'm seeing a lot of outrage on this. And if he gets cast as Clark Kent, I can totally understand. I think it's bad casting. I think it's a little diversity for the sake of diversity, not because it necessarily fits the character. But if they cast him as the other Superman, then more power to it. But here's my thing: is if they think that's a smart move, if WB thinks that they've already infuriated the masses who are not familiar with these takes on characters, and their take is to either recast him completely or put the other Superman in there, then I think that is just a dumb move on WB's part.
Shout out to Andrea. Welcome to the chat, buddy. I saw that you got here just a minute ago, and no, you did not miss it this week. But she said he should have shaved his mustache for Justice League. I don't know why, because otherwise we would not have had all those fantastic fucking memes. So agree to disagree there. And then Venice Beach says we needed a Man of Steel 2 where he's working at the Daily Planet, dating Lois and keeping it simple. Couldn't agree more. That sounds like the Superman movie it could have even started out with. But it's interesting. I love Michael B. Jordan. Sometimes what happens is I get so caught up on one side of the debate, and this is going to happen with me when you guys start to see me contradict myself over the next several episodes that you watch. It happens. People's personalities and you know, kind of beliefs and preferences kind of tend to evolve and change, and sometimes I feel a little bit differently about things. But Michael B. Jordan is one of the most talented actors in the business. The fact that he just now played Killmonger kind of throws it for me a little bit. The fact that he did Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four, I did not give a shit about the fact that he was black playing Johnny Storm. It did not even... There was nothing about that bothered me. Michael B. Jordan is never the kind of name that I would think of when looking to cast Superman. However, if it was to make a political statement and be like, hey, we're making the first black Superman, it's going to drum up so much controversy. I don't know that controversy is going to equal box office. And I think at the end of the day, what we've learned is that Warner Brothers is chasing that money. So that said, I don't really care to see Michael B. Jordan as Superman. However, because Superman is from another planet, and because race could be something totally different on Metropolis, fucking, what's the name of the planet?
Krypton?
Krypton. Yeah, so things could have been different on Krypton to where race is just a different... So he comes to Earth as a black man. He's found by a family. Maybe it still is in middle America. Maybe they go the urban route, and I think that there's something interesting they could do there thematically and narratively about this person who feels like he's from another world and has struggled with his true identity and the duality of him being this... one person as a you know, regular civilian, and then this other person altogether as somebody who sacrifices for everything. I think they could do something fascinating with it, but it's going to be a tough fucking sell if they call it Superman.
I think it's a tough sell, and I'm one of those people. So here's my stance pretty much on race switching in media. Like I don't like when they, you see it all the time with like Asian characters in anime or stuff. When they make an American version, they change them, and you're like, really? Because as long as their race isn't inherently like so caught up in their identity, like the Death Note. I mean, I hate that movie, but Death Note, Light, it doesn't really matter what race he is. You know what I mean? Like that's not really who he is. Now, if they would have changed Black Panther to a white man, well, obviously that matters.
Right.
You know, that's part of the story. And in my opinion, I think you could change Batman to a black man. I don't think his race necessarily has to do with it. For me, Superman is like a kind of rednecky country boy. Like, you know, to me, that is part of his identity as much as, you know, certain characters is of theirs. Like, he's one of the few ones where I'm like that they could change. Like, to me, like other characters, like, I don't know, even like Professor X, is his identity necessarily like a white male? No, not really.
No,
you know
I agree.
I mean?
That's a good point, man.
That's kind of where my line always is.
Real quick, shout out to Lars. Sir, you are so right. He says he hasn't seen the Nun yet, but he's really happy to see that Marilyn Manson has turned to acting. So good for you there. Just wanted to bring that up. That's a good comment, sir. Good comment. Andrea says, hang on. I have a soft spot for Chris Reeve. To me, he's the best, but Cavill was a solid Superman, and I'm sorry to see him go. Sorry for the wrecked post there. Hit send instead of back. Nobody cares about your inability to type, Andrea. It's fine. No, but seriously, I can understand why Christopher Reeves is your favorite Superman. I was so young when I saw those movies that like they didn't grab me in that way. But I think you're not alone when you say that. It's probably even a little blasphemous to say anything but Christopher Reeves, because he is definitely the man that donned the cape and made it as iconic as it was. But hey, typo away. I don't give a shit about that. You've seen the worst of my writing before, Andrea, so no shame there. Caleb, have you met Andrea before?
No, I haven't.
Gargoyle Girl on Twitter. I'll make sure you guys are in contact. She's a great friend. Been a great help to just everything that I've done. She actually helped me write the Movie Monsters series, so I'm sure you'll like her.
Oh, cool.
Kendall, thank you so much for stopping by. Parental responsibility. Get your priorities straight, man. Tell them kids you'll be with them later. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right, well, we'll move on. Holy shit. The Nun is proof of America's horror habit. See what I did there? Holy shit.
We got your horrible pun.
All right.
That's also the worst segue ever.
Well, thank you. I'm working on it. I'm putting the next one on you, dude. Fuck that.
Okay, I will. I got to pull up the docket of what we're talking about after that.
All right.
Tell me to segue, and I'll segue.
So, it is proof of America's horror habit for sure. I mean, these movies have just consistently been crushing it. It was a sensation. Obviously, there were a couple between it and A Quiet Place. I can't recall what exactly it was. And then we've got The Nun. I mean, it's been a big couple of years for horror movies. The Nun is obviously the biggest opening film in the Conjuring universe, right? And that's pretty major. It actually makes The Conjuring the highest grossing R-rated horror franchise of all time. It also makes The Nun in the top 5, actually the 5th highest grossing horror film of all time. And critics and audiences seem fairly, I don't know, divided on, not even divided. They seem very down on it. So, first of all, you didn't see The Nun, did you?
No, I have not. I have no desire to, honestly. It's just one of those ones that just, I haven't seen any of The Conjuring, so I feel like I shouldn't jump in at what's supposed to be the worst one.
Yeah, probably not. So
no, I think it's bizarre. I mean, it's great to me. Anytime, I love to see horror doing this well, and it seems that people are into it, and that's always exciting to me, because as long as it's performing well, we'll keep getting more of it. And there's been a serious doubt for, God, I'd say probably the last 15, 20 years of really good horror.
I would still have to say something like The Nun is a class above something like Truth or Dare, you know what I mean, or one of those movies, because they're shot really well, the production value is really good, like I said, creepy atmosphere, all of that kind of stuff. But what was it, do you think, about The Nun itself? Well, first of all, it's kind of crazy that James Wan has been able to build a fucking shared cinematic universe off of one horror movie. That's pretty cool. But what is it that you think about The Nun in particular captured public interest so much?
I think there was first of all marketing. Marketing is everything in all of this stuff. With art, I've always said it doesn't necessarily matter the quality, but it matters the quality of your marketing department. So that's a huge part of it. But I think because we're in this weird thing where people are obsessed with cinematic universes and they're obsessed with sequels. And so I think it's kind of a perfect storm. Then with that viral marketing that got pulled off of YouTube, that was more buzz around it. I think everyone was kind of just excited to. And honestly, I don't think right now, is there another horror film in theaters besides this one?
No, we've got several on the way, but you're right. This kind of kicked it off early, and dude, holy shit. I was going to say, did the marketing play a huge factor in it? Because I was thinking about the first jump scare one, but me and you even talked about the Nun trailer that got banned, and that probably did more for exposure than the fucking trailer itself. So that's a great point.
I mean, we talked about it on here, so I don't see. I'm sure everywhere who gets way more plays than us that did it as well. So I think that was probably one of the best things that could happen to them. People wanted to see what these jump scares were all about that were so controversial they had to pull them off YouTube.
Kind of a chicken and the egg thing, but when you look at movies like The Exorcist and you consider what a Christian nation we are and how many Catholics and things like that there are, do you think that that's what drove audiences to The Exorcist was cultural fear of the dark side of religion, or do you think that what drummed up the fascination with this Catholicism and exorcisms and stuff is all a direct result of The Exorcist?
I think definitely playing to fears that are instilled in your culture, and even though there's heavy, and I make this argument all the time, even though there's a heavy growth of atheism within our culture, culturally, we're still kind of a Christian nation,
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a lot of our culture. I know a lot of, think about how many atheists celebrate Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, we're still culturally a Christian country. And stuff like The Nun. I know devout atheists who love a good exorcist type of movie, because they either grew up in it or grew up around it. And so I do think culture has to do a little bit with that in a movie like The Nun. And, I think it's just a perfect storm, lightning in a bottle thing.
Well, and like when you and I were talking about Japanese and Korean horror films the other day and how so many of their legends and stuff are so specific to them culturally, and where something like I don't know how many Catholics there are in China, but where something like The Nun may not have the same cultural value, because I know Latino audiences turned out in droves to see it, and it's because Catholicism is so big, within that community. So I think that's cool. It's just we do see horror being opened up to markets and audiences, and movies in general that have been opening it up to audiences that normally aren't driving the big substantial numbers and statistics to the box office. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, critic responses don't really matter as much as word of mouth or just excitement. I mean, even if John Carpenter were to come out and say this was a horrible movie, it doesn't matter. But he did say it was a great movie. It's the new upcoming Halloween. And that's how you do a segue.
You're fired. That was way better than mine, dude. Why am I running this fucking show?
Yeah, so I will move on to the next subject since I stole it right there.
No, that was fantastic.
See, that's how you do it. I've been watching way too many podcasts. Oh man, that's right. Should turn down the brightness on this side. So yeah, John Carpenter came out and said that Halloween 2018 is the best since the original. I don't know if that excites me or not, or if I even really care what he says. I don't know what you think about it.
For me, it's kind of status. Like, what else is he gonna say?